We all please rise for the prayer to begin the regularly scheduled city council meeting. Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. We all please salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Counsel Belanger.
Here.
Mayor Elliott.
Here.
Counsel Kennedy.
Here.
Counsel Leahy.
Here.
Counsel Martin.
Here.
Counsel Mercier. Counsel Milanazzo.
Here.
Counsel Rourke.
Here.
Counsel Samaras.
Here.
It's 9 present.
The chair would first like to recognize Council Milanazzo and then Council Leahy, both for a moment of silence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in Darkened Chambers in memory of Margaret Peggy Shannon, who passed away this past week. Mrs. Shannon was a member of a well-known Lowell family. She leaves behind her loving husband of almost 64 years, James Shannon, as well as 6 children who've grown up to be wonderful adults, 3 girls, 3 boys, and 13 grandchildren, and I believe 8 great-grandchildren. She was very much involved in the Immaculate Conception Parish. Her maiden name was Sullivan. She was actually involved with the Sullivan Brothers printing family, and she was an ardent Patriots fan for obvious reasons because her family was one time owned the New England Patriots. So I'd like to offer a moment of silence in Darkened Chambers for Mrs. Shannon. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Milanazzo. Council Leahy?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to remember William Keefe, retired Lowell police officer, father of Patrolman Brian Keefe. We offer our condolences go out to the family. We offered a moment of silence for his mother a week ago. He's very tragic, but Patrolman Keefe appreciates our thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Leahy. Any further comments? Could we all please rise for a moment of silence? And we ask that we darken the chambers. May they rest in peace. First item on the agenda, we have a mayor's business. We have a citation in line with continuing to recognize new businesses in the city. I have a citation recognizing Moni's Beauty Center on 5456 Branch Street. If I could have the owners, Sarah and Sulip Luck, please come to the podium. Yep, right over here. It was just a week ago that myself and the city manager's staff and others that we opened up another beauty salon on Branch Street. Congratulations! It's a beautiful facility and brought improvement on Branch Street to a piece of property that could use a little bit of tender love and care, and you certainly provided, and it's a wonderful facility, and we want to congratulate you, and we want to thank you for opening up another business in the city. And on behalf of my colleagues in government, we have a citation, and I'd like to read it. Be it hereby known to all that the City of Lowell and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts hereby welcomes Moni's Beauty Center as a new business to make its home at 5456 Branch Street, as a hair salon, a nail salon, a spa. You also offer wedding decorations and fresh flower arrangements for all occasions. The city is honored that your dream has come true to life here in the city of Lowell. The entire city of Lowell extends its deepest wishes to Moni's Beauty Center for success with your new business as you offer a full range of professional services catering to Asian Americans. Given on this 28th day of October 2014, on behalf of the City Council, the City Administration, the entire city, we congratulate you, we wish you well, and thank you for starting a business in the city of Lowell.
I would like to say thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and also all the city council. I think 2 years ago that vote for me to have this building happen to be a Moni Beauty Center. And that building before, it was not good at all, but I don't think that all the council trust me that I improve this building to be a beauty. So I'm appreciate that. Thank you very much for the vote last 2 years. I look forward for the next time. I would like to request something. I want all of you to recognize that I would like to prove that to improve the city of Lowell. The city of Lowell, that is my diamond in my heart. That is give me the good life, good opportunity, and for the good future for my children. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Congratulations again. I'd like to entertain a motion to take an item out of order that's on the agenda, and that would be item number 10.2. Motion to suspend the rules by Councilor Belanger, seconded by Councilor Rourke. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries. We'll suspend the rules to take item 10.2 out of order. It's a motion under council motions, motion by Council Mercy request. City manager notify the organizers of the Bay State Marathon to reorganize their travel route for the next year so that they would not close off all the bridges at once. Second. Seconded by Councilor Samaras. Councilor Mercia.
For no other reason than to create better harmony between the city and this organization. In no way do I intend to stop this event nor reroute it. I know the benefits the city receives by them being here. I know that this city offers the best running course because the course is flat and acts as a good qualifier, and because of this, it separates Lowell from other communities. Therefore, this race defines Lowell. I know that in the past we have asked this organization for better signage, and Bay State complied and put out more electronic signs. I know that there have been articles written in national magazines about Bay State, and Lowell was always a part of the story. Through this motion, I am asking the city manager to meet with Bay State officials and see if both the city and Bay State can come up with a more comprehensive plan in place for moving traffic along. I know that everyone is trying, but when 4 of the bridges, and probably it's a mistake, I don't know, but people are saying that a lot of the bridges are closed. I know that probably Bridge Street is open. I don't know which bridges are open, but because I know when they come here, I don't go in that direction. That's fine. And if I lived in that neighborhood, I would find a way to go all around rather than try to go over bridges. So I'm not trying to be the bearer of bad news here. I know that people get upset waiting sometimes, and the wait can be unbearable. I have had people tell me that they were late for work, and they probably were, but I don't think they're here tonight to say that. There are times when people probably like to complain because they want things fast at the snap of a finger. That can't possibly happen. But I know there are a large number of people here this evening. I know that my friend Deb Belanger and Andy St. Onge, many years ago from day one, tried to bring this event here, and they succeeded. I, being a friend, certainly don't want to stop that. I do want people to come up to the podium and tell the people that are complaining what benefits there are derived from this, because I know there are plenty, and I have only mentioned a few. Even though the race is held on a Sunday, they say, that people still have to go to their jobs and they were detained. Therefore, I made this motion for that specific reason alone. If we could create better harmony for everyone, this motion aims to do that. If we could come up with a better traffic control plan in place, that's all I'm asking for. So maybe I should amend the motion to mean that we sit down and speak for a better traffic control plan in place, because I certainly don't want to reroute traffic, but I would like to reroute people off a bridge so that we could do it on a faster pace or something to that effect. So I know there are people here that wish to speak. I would welcome those that are complaining to know just what happens on this particular time, because I don't know the full effect of the money generated, but I know there are people here that do, and maybe they would be less apt to complain if they knew the good that is being done by this organization. I certainly don't want them to leave. I certainly don't want to reroute their traffic pattern, but I do want more cooperation, such as they've given us with more signs, electronic signs. I think we owe them a little bit more help to try to get traffic moving, and that's all the gist of that motion is. So if we could have people that want to talk and explain the benefits that this group brings to the city, I would be happy to hear of it.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Clerk, there are a number of individuals registered to speak. If
There are,
there's
Mr. Mayor.
no objection from the council? Okay.
Glenn Stewart.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the council for the opportunity to speak towards this motion. I'd most like to express our appreciation for the support that was just expressed by Councilwoman Mercier. And we welcome the opportunity.
Mr. Stewart, just for the people at home, could you just
sorry.
give your title or your role for?
Yeah, my name is Glenn Stewart. I'm the race director for the Bay State Marathon. I've been the race director for the last 5 years. Prior to that, I was the course director for 7 years. Again, we appreciate the opportunity to work with the council and with the city manager and the police department on expediting traffic. We understand the frustration that people have when they get stuck in traffic. We occasionally get stuck ourselves in traffic, and nobody likes being stuck. So one of the things that we do is we try to reach out to the community, and I'll talk to that in a few moments. Just a little bit on Bay State itself. Bay State has been running in the city of Lowell for 25 years now. This was our 25th year of running. This is our 12th year in the current configuration. As Councilwoman Mercier just pointed out, the vision of having the race downtown as it is now was the vision of Andy St. Ange. Andy had a vision of bringing a major sporting event to downtown Lowell, to bring residents and visitors into downtown Lowell so that they could see what the city has to offer and to make this more of a destination marathon. And I think that we have succeeded in that vision. We bring, at this time, thousands of runners, their families, and their friends to Lowell each October. This year we had 36 states, 4 countries. We sold 180 hotel rooms. We had 800 runners that came from more than 50 miles away. We had 1,300 runners that came from more than 30 miles away. The economic impact this race has directly on race day to this city is $400,000 as calculated by Deb Belanger and the CVB. We use Bay State as one of our means to give back to the community. Some may recall that one year we helped out the school budget when it was being cut so that the track team could continue at the same level that it's been running at. We give out to the local schools, including Lowell High School, also to the UML track team, other organizations such as the YWCA of Lowell here. We give them the opportunity to help us during the race, and we give back a donation to each of those organizations. That's one of our ways of giving back. We use our programs to support our youth development throughout the city. We do track teams and cross-country teams that we run at a national level. Our youth team has gone to the national championship, which is located in a different place each year. For the last 4 consecutive years, we expect to be going there again this 5th year. We run summer camps during the month of July. These are all things that are funded by our ability to do the Bay State Marathon. One of the most attractive events that we do of the year is we do a free track event at Colley Stadium, which is open to any children within the greater Lowell area. There's no charge for that, and it's their first introduction to track and running. We teach them how to do shot put, we teach them how to do high jump, triple jumps, and then, of course, they do the sprinting and hurdling and all those other events as well. And that is completely free, and we've had great success at drawing inner-city youth to that. And I think it's shown in the progress that Lowell High School has made in their cross-country and track teams. We also use this to support our other race, which is the Burners Great Leg Race, which we do in July. And that has enabled us to help the House of Hope here in Lowell to be able to give them $10,000 over the last 5 years or so. We also use our race to help various charities that come to our race and bring people some support. One of those organizations is Back on My Feet, which helps the homeless people get back into society. They have run with us now for the last 5 years. This is what we do, and this is why we do it. But I think Councilwoman Mercier pointed out it's important to know how to do it. And we make a big effort to try to limit the impact that we have on the community because we realize it's a major event and that it has a far-reaching impact on the people of the city during the day that we do the race. So one of the things we do is we limit the size of the race. I'm often asked, why don't we have more runners in the race? And the answer to that is very simple. We have a limited amount of space to be able to put on this event. We cannot close the roads entirely. We need to have the roads open so that people can get to work, get to church, so that they can get to their homes. So we do not close the roads, and therefore we limit the size of the race. We limit it to 4,000 people. The biggest thing that we do, especially over the last 5 years, and Councilwoman Mercier again spoke to that, is that we have increased our community outreach program over the last 5 years. We now spend $7,000 on electronic signage, which we put at all of the various bridges to warn people that the Bay State Marathon is coming. Those signs get turned up on the day after Columbus Day, which would be the Tuesday of the week of the race. We also put out 150 placards, one of which I have here with me tonight, around the city. I remember when we first started doing it. I actually was on the crew that did that. We only put out about 40 of those at that time. Myself and another friend of mine, Ricky Sullivan, we did all the placards that year. We now have a team of four different teams that go out on the Sunday before the race and start putting those placards up. We put out over 150 of those on the race course, around the race course, and on the feeder roads that go into the race course. And each year we try to increase that. As I say, those are done on the Sunday before the race occurs, and then during the race, little seen by most people, I think, is the fact that those crews actually go out again and they're removing those signs so as not to confuse the residents. We go to the Lowell Sun to get sun coverage in the race. We spend $1,000 on ads for WCAP to reach out to the community, as well as making appearances on the radio in order to, again, make the residents aware that the race is coming. We have been building a contact list of all of the condos and businesses. We grow that list each year, and we added another one today on Perkins Street to be able to alert them that the race is about to occur and to what to expect, when to expect it, how to avoid it, and where to be going. We take this responsibility extremely seriously. I think if you were to talk to anybody on the race committee, you would find out that one of my big hot buttons has been that we need to reach out to the community to make them aware that the race is going on, to minimize the problems that we see on race day. Safety is our paramount importance for both the runners and for the public. We work with the Lowell Fire Department, also the fire departments of Chelmsford and Tingsboro, the Lowell EMS team, the Red Cross, all of the ambulance services in this area, and Lowell General Hospital. we put together a comprehensive medical plan for both the race and also a comprehensive communication plan that monitors all 911 calls during the time that the race is occurring, so that any 911 call that is made in the area of the race is copied by our system, and if we can provide assistance, then we divert our resources to help that problem. Because we realize that the traffic problems that we create problems for safety, and I know that's one of the concerns a lot of citizens have. They say, well, what if something were to go wrong? How would I get help? And the answer to that is we have a plan in place to do that. We do impact the bridges. Councilwoman Mercier was asking what bridges do we impact and what bridges are open. I have the answer to that. We do impact the Rourke Bridge. The Rourke Bridge, we actually do officially close that bridge because we use it for the runners to run across in both directions. Our half marathon goes from south to north, and our marathon goes from north to south. We also impact the O'Donnell Bridge, which would be Mammoth Street and School Street, the Howe Bridge University, and the Olette Bridge, Aiken Street, which is where we come back into the downtown area and go back to the Songus Arena. What we do with our signage is we try to recommend that people go to the Bridge Street Bridge and over to Hunts Falls Bridge at 110. Those are the two bridges that are open, and we keep those open during that entire time. We work with the police to attempt to do the best we can to reroute all of that traffic in that direction. The affected times for the bridge congestion is really approximately from 10 o'clock until almost 1 o'clock. Our race actually starts at 8 a.m. However, traffic between the hours of 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. tends to be relatively light. We do impact some people, no doubt, but relatively speaking, we don't have a lot of impact. There's not a lot of cars out at that point. People are able to pretty freely move about the city. At about 10 o'clock, that's when people start coming out of their homes, and they're starting to go off to work, or they're going off to shopping, or whatever it is that they're doing. And that's when we start to see the congestion build at the bridges themselves. So that's the time that we have as the most critical. Our runners are out there until roughly, depending on which bridge you're talking about, 12:30 to 1 o'clock. And after that, there are still runners, yes. However, the volume of runners is relatively low, and our effect on the traffic at that point is relatively negligible. So the amount of time that we're talking about congestion is roughly 3 hours.
Excuse me, Mr. Stewart. We have a number of quite a few people
Sure.
that wants to speak. So we want to be fair to everybody. So.
What I wanted to close with was, are we perfect at doing this? Far from it. We realize that. We want to work with the city to improve our community outreach efforts, and any assistance that we can get in that is certainly something that we would very much welcome. We try to improve that list every year, and 2015 will be no different. I believe actually this challenge, that's been a challenge for us anyway, to come before the council and speak to the Bay State Marathon, is actually an opportunity for us. An opportunity for us to improve our community outreach and to be able to work with the resources of the city to be able to make sure that everyone knows about the Bay State Marathon and what we can do. So help us, and hopefully you will see the benefits of the Bay State Marathon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. We appreciate it. I don't want to think that I was cutting you off by any stretch. I think you provided a lot of very good information to the council. Mr. Clerk.
Jeffrey Clark.
Hi, my name is Jeff Clark. I live at 172 Middle Street in downtown Lowell. I submitted the letter to the council yesterday that I believe most of you have, and it largely says the main points that Glenn has said, so I won't repeat that. I will just say that I do not support the motion as written, and I ask that you do not support that. But I think certainly GLRR, I won't speak for Glenn, but we are interested in improving traffic flow, and we would be happy to discuss the ways to maintain the same course but improve the traffic flow on the day of the marathon. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark.
Ruben Sanka.
Hi, thank you. My name is Ruben. I've been a citizen in Lowell for the past 9 years. I just wanted to say this race brings a lot of people in the community together, As my affiliation with the race is I have been a volunteer helping people qualify for the Boston Marathon. As Glenn mentioned, this race qualifies a lot of people for the Boston Marathon. Actually, 25% of the runners qualify for the Boston Marathon. And I've also been I've also helped with the traffic control for this marathon. And I have to tell you, there are a lot of volunteers for this marathon, and as Glenn has mentioned, they do the best they can to make sure that all traffic problems are solved, and I would really support continuing with the course the way that it is. So, thank you.
Trina Picardi.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Trina Picardi. I live at 151 Parkview. I'm Director of Amenities for the Bay State Marathon, and I'm Social Director for the Greater Lowell Roadrunners. I have the responsibility for deciding where goods are purchased for this race. We choose to spend our money locally in the city, and I would say that the number that Glenn mentioned from Deb does not include my specific spend for the city. So I would say that annually we spend approximately $5,000 with Cody's Market. We spend another $5,000 with the Songus Arena for beverages. We spend on average about $2,000 a year with Lowell Fruit. We spend about $1,000 a year with Notinis. So if you look at the relationship with these vendors, I can only speak to them to approximately the last 10 years. I've told that Cody's Market has been providing, though, food to the race for many years. So you just look at the last 10 years, we've spent $50,000 with Cody's Market. Any changes to the marathon and the route will negatively affect the amount of registered runners, and with less runners, I won't have as large orders to place. Finally, on a personal note, I'm a Lowell resident with my husband since 2001, and there are times when we think of selling our home and moving to a quieter suburb, but our relationship and participation with the Greater Lowell Roadrunners in the running community keeps us here. So I do not support the motion as it was written tonight, but I welcome any city assistance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Picardi.
Michael Sheehan.
Good evening. My name is Mike Sheehan. I'm a Lowell resident. I live at 151 Parkview Avenue. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. First off, I just want to say that I agree with everything that Mr. Stewart brought up earlier, a few minutes ago. I'd also like to add that a number of years ago when I first started running as an adult, Bay State was my first half marathon. Through the event, I became more aware of the strong running community that is in Lowell, and as a result, became a part of that community. This was one of the contributing factors of why I ended up relocating to Lowell, purchasing a house in Lowell, and moving my family into Lowell. So, thank you for your time.
We thank you, Mr. Sheehan. Mr. Clerk.
James Lee Shelton.
Hello, my name is James E. Shelton. I'm a resident of Lowell, and I live on the course, about the 2.5-mile mark. And every year I get out there and notify all the residents, all my neighbors. I live in a 32-unit condo complex on Middlesex Street. And I just get out there and get the word out. Even this year I got CarStar, the body shop on Middlesex Street, to use an electronic signboard to get signage up for us. And I agree with everything that Glenn Stewart said and Mike and everybody else. All I got.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton.
Andre Chandonnet.
Thank you very much, everyone. My name is Andre Chandonnet, and I live at 148 Carlisle Street in Lowell. I am a lifetime resident of the city, 58 plus years, and 29 of those years I've been a homeowner in the city. And over most of those 29 years, I've been an active member and proud member of the Greater Lowell Roadrunners Club as well. I wear a few different hats being here tonight, as a member of the club, as a resident of the city, and also as the Youth Services Director for the YWCA. And as Glenn mentioned, one of the things that the club prides itself in doing is giving back to the community. And the YWCA has been one of the recipients of some of the funds that are raised every year. And the marathon also provides a wonderful opportunity for young people to get involved in the community by giving back, doing community service. So the youth that are involved at the YWCA are part of something called the Green Team, and we hope to green the marathon. We provide recycling services, if you will, and in return, the club provides some financial support for us that allows us to do field trips and allows us to recognize the hard work that they do. The marathon, I'm also an avid runner, so that's another hat that I wear, and it's been a marathon that I've used to qualify to run the Boston Marathon on more than one occasion. It's a great course, and I truly hope and ask all of you to work with us to keep the course the way it is set up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chandonnet.
Nancy Callahan Stronach.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Callahan Stronach. I live at 18 River Road in Lowell. I am on the race committee for the Bay State Marathon for just about 20 years, and I head up registration. I'd like you to know that we are an all-volunteer organization. The entire race committee is about 8 people that put this together. We work on it 11 months out of the year with no paid positions. I correspond with close to every participant. We have a website with email addresses that I monitor on a daily basis, and I probably email 30 to 40 people per day. I can tell you that they are excited to come to Lowell. I also volunteer at the finish line once registration is finished. I have emails this year from people who this was their first time in Lowell. One in particular commented on how friendly all of the people of the city of Lowell were. They had a great time here. We hear it every year, how wonderful it is to come here from people who've never been here before. They get comment on the finish line, on the volunteers that we have out there, and how they cannot wait to come back to the city. Of particular comment at number pickup, which runs for several mornings, Friday and all day Saturday and Sunday morning before the race, is how they love the course. People who have never run it before are particularly excited to be running along the river. Otherwise, I agree with the other members of the race committee, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Callahan Stronach.
Andrew Jacobson.
Hi, Andy Jacobson, speaking for Brood Awakening Coffee House in downtown Lowell. I first just wanted to say I'm glad Councilor Mercier sort of clarified and amended what the motion was, because obviously it seems like there was a lot of fear that you were trying to either reroute or change the course, because it is a great event, it's a safe event, and it meets a lot of the needs that the councilor has been really harping on over the past several months about making events a big priority here, showcasing Lowell and having a positive impact on the city. And as previously mentioned about some of the local businesses that get money, you know, speaking on my behalf, during the hours of 8 to 2, we saw an 80% increase in our sales during that day. So there is a tremendous impact. So it is definitely worth keeping. And I would just challenge both organizers, city, businesses on how we can really make this event more like a Boston Marathon type event, citywide, and really have an impact throughout the entire city and make all the businesses in downtown and the neighborhoods really impactful positively. So, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobson.
Deb Belanger.
Dear Mr. Mayor, City Councilors, and Manager Murphy, Rita, good to see you tonight. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name, for those who don't know, is Debbie Belanger, and I live at 65 La Plume Avenue in Pawtucketville. The CVB has been involved in the Bay State Marathon for the last 12 years when Andy St. Ange, God rest his soul, and David Camille brought this event to downtown Lowell. We've worked with a lot of organizers over the years, and there are some really good ones, and there's some that aren't so good. I have to say, the organizers of the Bay State Marathon are some of the best. They're experts on how to put on a first-class race and have worked very hard not only to have this be sought after, a sought after qualifier for the Boston Marathon, but also to ensure that public safety and the residents' concerns are addressed. They've taken this very seriously over the years, and I personally think they've done yeoman's work getting the word out through a number of different channels. The Roadrunners Club is one of the largest clubs in the greater Merrimack Valley, with close to 500 people. Without this event, this club will dwindle. The people that put this race on are all volunteers, and they put thousands of hours into making this race great. But as you heard Glenn speak a little bit ago, what they give back to the community through their youth camps and youth track meets and high schools and universities is just, an added benefit. The economic impact of this race in the greater Merrimack Valley is close to 400,000. 32 runners coming from 36 states and 4 countries. That's just phenomenal to me. You can't get better advertising than, racers running along one of the most beautiful natural resources that we have, which is the river. I'm glad that you are willing to reword your motion because anything that we can do between public safety and the runners to, improve the traffic control, we'd be more than happy to look at it. But I, too, agree that we should look at ways to embrace this event. Thank the volunteers for putting Lowell on the map in the running community. We should work together to see if we can't expand this event. I agree. Look at what happens with the Boston Marathon. I think there are other events, pre-events, that we maybe can look at doing to capture more of the economic impact into the city, because at the end of the day, it's about community pride. It's about bringing economic activity to the area. And as a resident in Pawtucketville, I certainly understand the inconvenience of bridge closes. When my husband asked me to marry him 28 years ago, he said, "You have to move to Pawtucketville." And I'm like, that's in another county. But let me tell you, 25 years later, I love my neighborhood. I embrace the crew races, the festivals, the marathons. But you know what? You make alternative plans for the day, or you leave early. But this is a really good event for the city, so let's embrace it. And I want to thank you guys for all of the work that you do to bring this here to the city. Thank you so much.
Zona Schaffman.
Thank you, Ms. Belanger.
Good evening. My name is Zona Scharfman. I'm a Lowell resident. I've run the marathon twice and volunteered 3 times. I live near the finish line in arguably one of the most impacted areas, currently on Lawrence Drive, previously on Perkins Street. My sense from my neighbors is that it's an overwhelmingly positive experience for everyone. I think that people have fun and that people look forward to it each year. I believe that the race planning committee is meticulous in its attention to detail, and I support the marathon and the course as it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Scharfman.
Jim Rhodes.
Thank you. I'm Jim Rhodes. I live at 339 Christian Street on Christian Hill. I rely on a bridge every day to get to my work in Cambridge. And I love the Quinn Holmes Bridge, which is open the day of the marathon. I also participated in the marathon this year. I've done it 5 years. I have volunteered many years, probably over 20 years. I started volunteering, moving things around the course,
can be difficult, however, if you plan accordingly. Avoid the Pawtucket Street, Pawtucket Boulevard, and you can get around. It does impact the traffic, I do agree, but I can't tell you how much running has helped my life. Running, the health benefits just alone, I've just felt them over the years. I have to tell this story. I went to my local physician to get my annual physical, and before he could come in and discuss my health, he comes in running with a picture of him finishing the Bay State Half Marathon. He was so proud that he had done it and could show me, a runner, that he had done it. And he's just one of the many people that come in and run the marathon and enjoy it. We do cause traffic. I do admit it. And can we do some things? I believe we can. I just don't believe in rerouting the course. There might be some things such as on the second loop of the marathon, we could route the runners underneath the Rourke Bridge, which may alleviate some of the traffic and open up that bridge sooner. Minor adjustments. A minor adjustment was made in the Boston Marathon to go underneath Mass Avenue in 2005 to allow for pedestrians and cars to move more freely in that area. So even the marathon by which all marathons are measured can adjust, and I believe we can, and we can make it better. I think we can have more runners, to tell you the truth, because I've been locked out of running it some years because it's closed out. I hadn't run it in 9 years because it had closed out before I had a chance to sign up. I was glad to run it this year, though it was my slowest ever. I had a great experience, and I can't say enough about the organizers of the race. It's true, they are unpaid, and they do a wonderful job. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Rhodes.
Jack Flynn.
Hi, I'm Jack Flynn. I live at 30 Market Street, downtown Lowell. I can't add too much to what Glenn and Deb have already said. The only thing the original motion was that this race is a gem. It really is. I mean, if you think of 26 miles, and if you think putting that in New York or Boston or somewhere else, the number of intersections impacted is just enormous. Here we have 4 bridges that are impacted. It's just a matter of communication, letting people know about it, trying to get the word out a little bit more to people. And but you know, the upper loop is where the marathon takes place, and 20 of those 26 miles is in the upper loop from Rourke Bridge north. So you know, there's very little intersections that are actually impacted by that. So I appreciate you hearing all that has been said tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. That concludes the list of registered speakers. What is the wish of the body? Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want you to realize that I have quite a knack of wording a motion to draw a crowd, and that's just what I did here this evening, because those people watching at home would have never known about the impact of wonderful things that happened because people wanted to choose Lowell to have this event. $400,000, all the money that has been generated, we wouldn't have never known this if I didn't word it this way. If I said, so that's really, truly why I did this. I know you don't believe it, but that's what it is. Because I think it's just a wonderful thing. I think it does need some improvement with the traffic flow. So what I would want to do is amend the motion not to change this route, absolutely not. It's a flat surface. It's a scenic route, but I had to throw that in there, or probably 5 people would have came and the impact wouldn't have been the same. So I want you I just want to reword it and amend it to just meet and discuss a traffic flow issue. That's all we want to do. And it gives me an opportunity to say that I'm very sorry that I didn't have a citation, a proclamation, or something to give you tonight, because the people at home all they see are those signs and say, oh, now maybe they understand a little bit more why this has taken place. It's for the benefit of the runners to qualify for the Boston Marathon, but it is also generating some revenue here for the city. It's an impact that is great. It's only, you're being inconvenienced just one morning, more or less, just a few hours. So maybe if they realize all the great benefits that this city is receiving, they probably will leave a little bit earlier, go around to the Tingsboro Bridge like I did when I brought my daughter for surgery that day. So that's what I wanted to tell you. Things are looking up, we're doing okay, and that's the gist of what I wanted to do here this evening. So thank you for coming out of your way. I don't think you would have done that if I would have said, meet with a traffic flow, and maybe we would have 5 people. So I appreciate you all coming down. But it's nice to meet you all, and thank you for making this happen in our city.
Okay, motion by Council Mercer to amend the motion to, just to have the members of the organizers meet with the city manager to discuss
traffic flow.
Traffic flow and
That's all.
how we can amend it.
Thank you.
Second by Council Martin. Further discussion on the amendment, Councilor Samaras, then Councilor Belanger. You do it, next year we'll give you a proclamation. We'll approach this in a different way.
Thank you, Mayor Elliott. Actually, that's what I was going to request, that we bring this group before us again, the organizers of this event, to recognize them and to give them a citation for all the work that they've done. I think we have to do that, not next year, but this year. And I would ask the city manager, we are working to market this city, and we've talked about this being a city for education and for the arts, but they have proven most assuredly that this is also a city for recreation. So I want to thank the organizers of this event for what you have shown us and for the value you bring to the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Samaras. Councilor Belanger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm in agreement with Councilor Samaras. I would like to personally thank Mr. Glenn Stewart and his fellow organizers of this event. What they do to enhance our city on this weekend is just tremendous. Please don't be discouraged. We are here to help you. We commend and appreciate what you do. Thank you very much, all of you, to what you do. But to add to this, I've been involved in special events in the city for a number of years, and the Bay State Marathon is one of the biggest, and it's one of our best. But unfortunately, you may take the Lowell Folk Festival. We closed down the downtown Lowell for 3 whole days. Winterfest comes along in February. We close Arcan Drive and Summer Merrimack. The City of Lights Parade comes. We close Jackson Street and Summer Central. Unfortunately, these large-scale events that we have, which makes our city so great, unfortunately, some local residents are affected for a short time. But that is something we're all going to have to deal with. I'm sorry. We may need to have better outreach to reach out to neighbors and residents as to the event, but it's something we're all going to have to deal with. We are a festival city, and we will continue to be a festival city, and we will continue to host the Bay State Marathon. So I think it's a tremendous event, and I would like to thank again all the planners, and to add to this, see how for next year we can work with Deb Belanger, the Convention and Visitor Bureau, to further enhance this event, having a pre-party, to thank volunteers, to get the community together once again for another large event, to really capitalize on all this revenue that's coming to the city, so that we could do it. It's such a great event, but we can do even better. So thank you again, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to all of you who showed up tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Martin?
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to the folks that that put in a lot of time and effort to make this event a success every year, and thanks for coming down tonight. You know, when I was mayor, I had the honor of being the starter at the race, and I can attest to the fact that there aren't many people around at 8 o'clock in the morning. I was a little uncomfortable after the 4,000 people took off. I was standing in downtown Lowell by myself with a gun in my hand. But it was a starter pistol, not a real gun, and we took care of that. But you know, the folks put a lot of work into this every year. It's evident that the passion is there for the race, but also for the city. And that's something that's not easily obtained every time. So whether this can grow or not, that's, I guess if it grows, it's going to be more traffic. But certainly the effort that's been put in to date with this race, I think, speaks very well of the organizers and volunteers and the runners, and also of the city. So I hope that can continue for years to come. I think we should be doing everything we can to support the Boston Marathon, and the fact that 25% of these runners qualify for that is reason enough alone to continue this. So thank you, folks, for coming down tonight.
Thank you, Councilor. Council Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager. Mr. Manager, if we're going to meet to try to take care of the traffic, maybe one of the goals should be to try to increase the cap on the race so that if we're going to have the race and it's a very successful race, maybe it doesn't need to be capped at 4,000. Maybe we can raise that cap to a higher amount, and that it would be good if that was one of the goals.
Thank you, Council Kennedy. Further discussion? Council Marcia?
I did run the Bay State Marathon the other time last year, and I just got in last week. It took me all that time to do it.
So were you the reason why the bridges were all closed? Let me just say, I'd like to thank you as well for the time that you've taken to come down here to explain to us the benefits. I think it's important. As someone that is impacted every year, I appreciate the fact that we can try to tweak it from, as a Pawtucket residents. We are impacted. And it's not just this, it's just the daily traffic from the schools and the closure of the bridge for repairs. So it's, I like Mr. Rhodes' idea that if we can circle the second route underneath, that I think that will alleviate a lot of traffic. And if we can open up one of the 4 that are shut, I think it's important. But the organizers have put more signage. Residents are grateful that they know that it's coming. They're not caught by surprise, and I think that's very helpful. And just moving forward, just tweaking a little bit will be helpful. I did get stuck in the traffic on on the Pawtucket Boulevard. So if I was talking to the organizers earlier, just being able to usher that traffic through from one light to the next, knowing the signals are not being abided by because the bridges are closed, I think that would go a long way, rather than you're sitting there knowing nobody's crossing the bridge and there's no traffic going the other way. So I think if we could look at that, Mr. Manager, I think that would address a lot, some of the traffic issues. So again, thank you. I'm sure the manager will be in touch with the organizers to meet on this. Anything you want to add, Mr. Manager? Or?
Will, if you could just give Karen your contact information in the back, and we'll get in touch with you to set up a meeting. Thank you.
Right. We thank you, and we look forward to next year, and we'll work on a citation. Anything else? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries. Thank you, and the manager will be in touch. Okay, being well after the time of 7 o'clock, we had a public hearing scheduled. We will go right to that public hearing. That is item number 4.1. Verizon New England requests an underground conduit at 33 Middle Street. That being the second reading. We'll now open up this portion of the hearing for those wishing to speak in favor. Those wishing to speak in favor of the public hearing? Those wishing to speak in favor? Yes, sir. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the record, my name is Joseph Gleason. I'm a right-of-way agent with Verizon New England, Inc. Office located at 900 Chelmsford Street in Lowell. First of all, I want to thank the clerk's office today. I caused a little bit of a stir. I think I had originally requested that this petition be withdrawn without prejudice, but I got a little bit of pushback from Verizon about this. So let me just explain what it is that we're doing, and maybe the esteemed members of the council can enlighten me as to the best course to pursue relative to this petition. The petition actually before the council is a request by Verizon to place approximately 125 feet of underground conduit from an existing manhole on Middle Street through an alleyway that runs between 33 Middle Street and 29 Central Street to a handhole that's to be constructed at the end of that alleyway. And then it's going to turn in a westerly direction to another handhole, another 150 feet. The reason for this work is that Verizon is building a fiber network for some businesses and organizations on Merrimack Street, most specifically the United Way. The reason that I had actually requested originally that the petition be withdrawn without prejudice was that in anticipation of the hearing, I had been petitioning the engineering department at Verizon and anybody else I could find for somebody to inform me as to whether or not the alleyway, which I believe is known as City Ave or City Hall Avenue here in Lowell, is actually a public way. If it's not a public way, then it would be appropriate for Verizon to secure easement rights from the property owners along that alleyway. But I couldn't get a straight answer one way or the other as to whether this is a public or private thoroughfare. In speaking to the chief engineer on this job, he indicated to me that it was the city, and it was not Verizon, that had insisted that Verizon secure a grant of location for this conduit run. So, with that being said, what I'm going to ask of the council this evening is, relative to the 33 feet of conduit that runs from the existing manhole on Middle Street to the alleyway, that's public way. I think I'm pretty safe in requesting the grant for that particular location. As for the rest of it, I'll leave it to the discretion of the council. I know that Verizon is exceedingly anxious to secure some type of rights here because the moratorium on street openings is going to be setting in next month. And I think the fear is that if we don't get this grant either soon or tonight or soon hereafter, that they're going to miss out on an opportunity to construct this conduit. So I guess from Verizon's perspective, what I would be asking for would be approval for that 33 feet of conduit in Middle Street. As for the rest of it, I will ask for approval, perhaps conditionally, so until such time as there's a determination as to whether or not that's a public or private way. If it's determined that it's a public way, then I suppose that the grant would be appropriate. If it's not, the council could certainly rescind any sort of conditional grant. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So, I'm sorry, you're just starting this project now. There's only a couple of weeks left to the season for street openings.
Correct. Just so you're clear, Mr. Mayor, I'm not a Verizon employee. I'm an outside contractor, and all I can tell you is I get my marching orders from Verizon, and I contacted the chief engineer, and I told him, because I spoke to Mr. Gary earlier, and I said, I'm going to withdraw this petition. And he was like, please don't withdraw that. We really need to get moving on this. So I guess it's their intention to pursue this before the 15th. Whether that, I know that what sometimes Verizon says, what Verizon does is not always on the same thing.
Right.
But this is what I was told.
Mr. Manager?
In all fairness to the council, I think it's not up to you to make a determination tonight what's a public way, what's a private way. It's up to the administration to make that determination and then advise you as to what's the proper course to take. I would just ask if this be delayed until the next council meeting so I can have our people look at, because I've never been contacted by Verizon relative to this issue. So if they could just delay it for a week, I can find out from our people what's public and what's private and then advise the council properly.
Okay. Council Martin?
Yeah, I was going to suggest, typically these things just get referred to the administration for report and recommendation, and then they don't get approved till the accompanying order comes back. So, if we delay it a week, fine, but I don't know that that's even necessary since it just gets referred back to you anyway.
Right.
So.
Right. Okay, so we'll complete the, let us just complete the public hearing. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor? In favor, hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Now open up that portion of the public hearing for those wishing to speak in opposition.
Thank you.
If you could just give us your name and address.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Todd Beauregard, property owner at 2725 Central Street. My property abuts the alleyway. And I haven't seen the plan that they've proposed to do the excavation in that alley, but I've seen the markings that they put in the alleyway, and the markings actually go over my property line, and there's slabs of granite where my basement goes out into that alley about 4 or 5 feet, maybe even 6 to 8 feet. And the granite slabs that they've marked underneath that is my electrical service. and there's other facilities for my building that are underneath that property, or underneath the markings that Verizon has put down on the alleyway. I'd suggest, although I don't have, you know, a plan in front of me, that certainly the excavation could not take place in the place in which they've marked the alley, simply because they're going to end up in my basement. So I would also suspect that based on where they put the markings, that's private property, and they need to seek an easement from the property owners, one of which is myself. As far as they have some lines in the middle of that alley, and I'm not sure who owns that property. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beauregard. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition, seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. What is the wish of the body? Councilor Mercer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's a lot of questions surrounding this with the property owner now talking, even to delay it a week. We're cutting it close to the November 15th deadline for digging into streets or into the ground. We need a lot more information than I could
So
refer this to
the motion typically is to refer to the manager and the wire inspector for a report and recommendation. So if there's no objection, and Councilor Kennedy?
I'd make that motion, and if the administration is able to clear it up, fine, and if they're not, then that's okay as well. There's only a short amount of time, but that seems like the proper motion, and let's see how, you know, maybe it is something that could be cleared up quickly, and maybe it isn't, but I think it's up to them to sort it out, as the city manager pointed out earlier.
Okay. Motion by Councilor Martin, second by Councilor Kennedy, to refer this to the wire inspector, along with the city manager, for a report and recommendation to clear up issues of public easement and private access. Further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. And the opposed, that motion carries. That concludes the public hearing. Thank you. We now refer back to the beginning of the agenda. Item number 2, the city clerk. We have minutes of the city council meeting of October 21st for acceptance. Move to approve by Councilor Samaras, seconded by Councilor O'Rourke. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, motion carries. We have a report from the city auditor. It was a communication, initial FY14 free cash certification. We have a report. Discussion, motion to approve by Councilor Milanazzo, seconded by Councilor Mercia. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, that motion is accepted and placed on file. Item number 4 we just completed. Moving on to section number 5, we have communications from the city manager. Motion responses, A through G. Questions on motion responses? Councilor Lee?
Thank you. Through you to the manager. I'll start on A. So the response on Barbara Street. I was just wondering, I have the same question. I think there's a few more streets in the city that are in worse shape than this. So I don't know if there's any plans coming out for a new list or whatever. I mean, I certainly know that I see the recommendations underneath, but I would almost like to see, you know, an updated list, because there are a lot more roads that are in worse shape. So that would be my comment on this. I don't think, I'm sure the people on this street aren't going to be happy with my response, but, you know, I'm sure that, you know, it's time we take a look at the streets again and come up with the index again and reorganize the streets for next year, because it's my understanding next year we're going to have more money to do, not the Chapter 90 roads, but the other streets, I guess. So, and while we're on the subject of the paving, I just had a comment. We're repaving Market and Varnum Ave, and I was just wondering if there's a better way in between, so the time that they grind the road down and the time that we repave it, if we can insist that they do a better job on. I thought the norm was that they usually mark the raised castings with orange spray paint or some sort of marking. So it was kind of ridiculous driving this weekend on that main road on Market Street. I'm up on Varnum Ave, and they did fix the transition, but for the first couple of days, the transition was pretty big, and I think there were actually kind of potholes there. So I would ask that you try to find out if we can do this a better way. I mean, especially last weekend, the timing couldn't have been worse for Market Street. We had a lot of people in town for the UMass Lowell hockey games. We had a great weekend with the trick-or-treaters downtown, a lot of people downtown. So, you know, the street, if we could have, it should have been done earlier in the season. So I just wanted to bring those two roads to your attention. I just thought that the driving was horrific this weekend, so with the potholes and everything, and we actually have one claim in there for a flat tire. So do you want me to speak on all my questions, or let everyone speak on A and then we'll go to B? Or
Any other questions on street paving? Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes, this was originally my motion about Barbara Street, and it appears that it isn't as bad as some of the streets. I can understand that. But in the meantime, it isn't an accepted street, so if it would be possible, I would like to make a motion to begin the process to make Barbara Street an accepted street, and by that time, maybe money will be available so that it would probably be on the list, and it would be in worse shape anyway by the time I get this process going. So if I could make that motion and refer it to the city manager.
Motion by Councilor Mercia to take this report and amend it to have the city manager initiate proceedings to accept this as an accepted street.
Right.
Seconded by Councilor Milonazo. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries. Moving on to other motion responses, Councilor Leahy.
Let's see. So we got, I wanted to talk about D, the commercial vehicles used in East Merrimack Street, High Street, and Fayette. I wasn't sure, so in the report, it says that we're gonna seek, let's see, seek the advice from the state. I thought we were just gonna stop trucks going down Fayette Street, but are we gonna move ahead with Mass DOP on this or something?
Oh, absolutely. Not only did we, I talked to the person in charge of this at a meeting we had relative to the traffic over by UMass Lowell, and he gave us the list of information we needed to provide, and we're going to look at the entire area there.
Okay.
Including
Do they
Fayette
normally
Street.
put these, like, do truck companies have a GPS that kind of tell them which streets they're not allowed on, or is that how it might
Yeah,
work?
plus
or-
I'm sure we'd have signage for it also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Further discussion on that? Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the report, it does say that we'll gather the required information and provide an update to the council. Do we have a time frame on that? I know that the people who actually petitioned this before were here earlier tonight, talking about the truck exclusion in that particular neighborhood and route. Do we have a time frame?
I don't, but we'll expedite it and make sure that it gets done immediately.
Okay. I do have to say that, driving to work in the morning about 7:15, I see big trucks. Driving home at night around 5 o'clock, I see big trucks. So it's just amazing to me that they are coming up High Street, taking a right onto East Merrimack Street and heading over the Hunts Falls Bridge. So it appears to be on a pretty regular basis. That's just my observation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion, requests on other council motions, Mr. Manager?
We do have representative, Councilor Leahy had previously requested that we have representatives from National Grid and Verizon here to talk about double poles, and there's a quite extensive report in the council package about the double poles, but I was just wondering if anyone had any particular questions. There are representatives from those two entities here this evening if you would like to ask them a question.
And I can see that they are eager to come up. Again, welcome to City Council Chambers. We appreciate you coming here.
I'm Kathy Moore. I'm National Grid's Community Manager covering City of Lowell. And I'm Stephanie Lee from Verizon Government Affairs. Good evening, everybody.
So I presume I'll just go right to Councilor Leahy. Seems like he does have some questions, and he made the motion on double
Thank
polls.
you.
Councilor Leahy?
So going through the list, I can see we made, quite an improvement, and I thank you for coming down. I did have a couple of questions on a few that are polls that are kind of stand out. So there's a couple on Andover Street, 25, 24, and 66. So 25 and 24, according to the report, I guess, 24 we're waiting to move telephone lines. 25 has just been sitting there for close to 6 months maybe, or longer. It's got a sign on it, but it looks like it's ready to come out. And then the other one on Andover Street at 66, I guess it says electric lines, but that was, I think, an accident maybe about a year ago or so at least. There was some wires coming out that took about 6 weeks to relocate or something, and then it's been that way forever, for the last 5 months at least. So those three, look like they've been there a long time for the time allotted. And then on Boston Road, I guess, Boston Road, I think that's out by East Chelmsford. Does that become Plain Street, Boston Road? Okay. So the ones on Boston Road seem like they've been there forever. They're on the corner of Fruit Street and Maynard maybe, but they just seem like they've been sitting there forever. And I don't know what the story is with those. A lot of the poles on that street have an X on it with an arrow going down, and so I don't know what that means, but a lot of the poles have been marked with that. But these 3 poles have been sitting there for maybe over a year, close to a year and a half. So I didn't know what the story is with that, if you're gonna do that whole road and you just haven't pulled these because you plan to do the roads. But those are the 6 that really stand out to me. But I do appreciate, we're down to 76. Still don't want us to give up on it. The number's way down since the whole council's been insisting that they be pulled out, and they're just an eyesore. So, we should move on them to get them out as soon as we can. Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you for I'm sorry, Councilor Martin.
Yeah, I appreciate the effort. This is a very considerable improvement. I just had a question, maybe it's more to the administration, but the column that says street light, or the column that says fire alarm, who's responsible for a street light? Do we know that?
Mr. Manager? Or?
I believe we'd be responsible for transferring the street light. I don't see a lot of those on here. Fire alarm is city. I'd have to check the ones that Councilor Leahy mentioned specifically on Boston Road are all, it appears, awaiting transfer of the fire alarm, which is the city's responsibility. But, some of this information does need to be updated, so we can.
As I was reading it wrong, I think there is only one street light with a B in it.
Yeah, typically, if we're out there transferring lines, we'll move the street light at the same time.
But I know one of them, Councilor Mercy and I had talked about on Stromquist Avenue. I don't know if this is the same pole or not, but that, I guess, is a fire alarm column, not a street light column.
Okay.
And so the fire alarm is typically a private contractor or a city?
It's the city's responsibility. I'm not sure if they do it in-house or have a contractor manage it.
Okay.
One thing I will say, because as I mentioned, some of the information on this is in need of updating. So we mentioned the last time we were here that Verizon is in the process of doing a survey. We're a little bit behind schedule. I think we had originally told you folks that it would be done by this time, but it's actually in progress. Now you may see some of the people out on the street. I've seen them. And you'll see them looking up at poles with a clipboard, so it's pretty obvious that they're surveying all of the poles in the city. So whatever information on this does need to be updated will be done Right now, I think they're targeting the end of November, but it may be a little bit longer than that. It's a very lengthy process they're actually going to every street, pole by pole.
Okay, but this is a considerable improvement, so we appreciate the effort. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Belanger, then Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One quick question through you to Stephanie from Verizon Government Affairs, and it doesn't pertain too much to this at all, actually, but I was wondering if you can update the council at a future meeting or send us a fax or whatnot, an email regarding a Verizon substation on Jackson Street in Lowell. It's right before our parking garage. It's more or less fenced in. It's a small little brick building, probably 20 feet by 30 feet wide, in that range. I'm told it's inactive. It's been sitting a long time. It's land that, it's often inquired to me by residents that would like to see a park, some green space there, and they don't see any activity from Verizon. So if you could kindly, I think it's appropriate time to ask you, seeing that you're here, if you could kindly update the council what the status is with that, because the neighbors really it's a neighborhood now, and they really have their eyes on that for some green space and a park of some sort. So if you could update the council, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Sure, I
Councilor.
would be happy to get back to you on that. I'll look into it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Councilor Kennedy?
I just have one question. It does seem like there's been quite a bit of improvement. The report's got there's 72 polls at this point. The last time you were here, do you know how many there were then?
Yeah, 122, I think, in May, end of May, yeah.
Okay. So how many do you think there'll be when you come back the next time?
That's a magic question. Do you want to address that?
I think, to be realistic, this number is pretty good, considering the size of the city. It's never going to be single digits. It's not realistic, only from a perspective where we're always working in the city. So as quickly as we're taking double poles down, we're doing work that may create a double pole. So I think the key is to keep working at it the way we have. We've shown, like you mentioned, pretty significant progress since Stephanie and I first appeared. We'll continue to do that so that it doesn't go in the wrong direction. I'd love to see more improvement. With the winter coming, hopefully we won't be too impacted by that. But I think this is a very good number, considering the size of the city.
And the reality is these poles, they'll be rotating around the city. Right. So as new projects come in, or there might be an accident, poles need to replace. So you shouldn't be looking at the same poles. But having a city the size of Lowell with under 100 double poles is pretty good, as long as the inventory continues to rotate. But that doesn't mean we'll stop doing this. We know you're very focused on this. While we still have some good weather, we will take back the priorities as well as continue to reduce this list, because we won't be probably doing a lot of major projects where we'll be putting in new poles in the winter unless there's emergency situations or situations where we need to. Construction season's typically in the warmer weather, so I think you'll see more reduction, but it's unrealistic that you see 0 double poles forever. But
I wasn't shooting for 0, I was just shooting for less than 72, but
that's fair.
Yeah. But I do appreciate, and I think everybody here appreciates the progress that's been made, and the time that you put into this, and I appreciate you coming here, as I'm sure everybody else does too. Thank you.
Councilor Lay?
Just one more follow-up. On the list, do you have the list in front of you?
Yes.
Could you so the last street, just for example, Hastings Street, it doesn't have any bold letters, so does that mean that pole's ready to come out?
Yes, when the remediation party is bolded, that means that it's ready to be taken out.
There's maybe, I forget how many are on here. So all the poles, all the streets on the, without any bold letters, we could expect those to be pulled out by the winter?
For anything that's bolded?
Anything that doesn't have a bold letter looks like it's ready to come out?
Yeah, anything that is bold under Massachusetts Electric, under remediation party, is what's ready to come out. And, unfortunately, I can't commit to you that we'll remove them all before the winter, but we'll continue to chip away at the list. And if you have priorities, like you mentioned tonight, we'll take
Yeah, I mean,
those
the
back.
ones I mentioned have seemed like they've been there forever. And we do appreciate, when we first started this, there were over 400 poles, then you get down to 150, we're down to 72, but, you know, and it is a priority for us in Lowell, and we appreciate your effort. So, you know, if we could hover around, we'll give you 40, 45, that would be great. So.
As long as they're
thank
moving,
you.
right?
Yeah, as long as they're moving.
That's the thing, that's key.
Thank you.
That's fair.
Thank you for coming again and joining us and giving us an update. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we look forward to seeing you sometime again. Council Rourke and Council motion responses?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. With regards to response E, I'd like to say that this report by Mr. Slagle is fantastic, the way it's written and how it explains to us what's been done with the problem properties. I wonder if we can get maybe a quarterly report, 3 or 4 times a year, an update of what properties that the city's involved in. It's a good, I think it's a good development for the city to get it out there, for people to know that something is happening with problem properties in the city. So once again, it's a tremendous report, and more of these I think would be good. So thank you.
Mr. Slagle, quarterly report, okay?
Absolutely, we can absolutely put that together. We'll maintain a rolling report, and whenever the council needs it, we'll provide to the city manager to give to the council.
Mr. Manager?
I think it's an excellent idea because, quite honestly, I think the Inspectional Services Department is doing a great job working with the police department relative to these problem properties. And as we said earlier at the subcommittee meeting, we're putting on a senior building inspector that we want to concentrate on this issue, and we should have more shut down for the next quarterly meeting.
Thank you. Council Leahy?
Thank you. I also, this report was discussed at tonight's neighborhood subcommittee meeting. It was a very good report, and appreciate it. And along with Council Rourke's recommendation, if it's easier, maybe we are going to get the quarterly reports for the motions. So I don't know if you want to do just a quarterly report on this at the same time, so every quarter we get a report on the motions and this, if that makes it easier. Thank you.
Further discussion on motion responses? Seeing none. Councilor Samaras?
Thank you. Regarding to item C, illumination of smokestacks, can't even say the word today. In that regard, thank you for the planning that's been done by your department. But for the public, could you just give an idea of what's happening in that regard?
Mr.
Yes,
Manager?
thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. Basically, what's happened is that our DPD director Diane Trad has met with Mr. Powers from Farley White to discuss the smokestack that he did. And what we're going to do is we're going to identify the owners of the remaining smokestacks. We're going to schedule a meeting with them and myself to sit down and talk to them about doing the same thing that Mr. Powers has done with his smokestack. See if we can get it done for this year. I know there's going to be engineering issues and lighting issues. It may be a little tough to do this year, but at least if we start now, we can get it going, so no later than next holiday season.
Thank you for your effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Other questions, discussion for the manager on motion responses? Seeing none, entertain a motion to accept the reports and place on file by Councilor Belanger, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Excuse me. Next item of the night is communication. City manager requests approval of out-of-state travel for one individual from the Lowell Police Department. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Leahy, seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Did not require a second reading. Motion to approve by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Martin. Roll call.
Councilor Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy.
Yes.
Councilor Leahy.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Rourke.
Yes.
Councilor Samaras.
Yes.
It's 9 yeas.
9 yeas, motion carries. Moving on to the next item of the agenda, votes from the city manager. We have a vote authorize the city manager to accept a deed to relocate Edward Street and the sidewalk in front of 1765 Middlesex Street. This vote requires a second reading. Now I will entertain a motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Leahy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, motion carries. Second reading by title, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, and City Council is a vote. Authorizing the city manager in the name of the City of Lowell to accept a deed to the relocated Edward Street and the sidewalk located in front of 1765 Middlesex Street in the City of Lowell from Lowell Mammoth Development, LLC. Move to approve by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Milonazo. Roll call.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas. Moving on to 6.2 is another vote under votes from the city manager. Vote to authorize the city manager to execute a license agreement with Arcadius US Incorporated for 30 Howe Street. Again, entertain a motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Rourke, seconded by Councilor Samaras. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, that motion carries. Second reading will be by title, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, and City Council, a vote. Authorizing the city manager to execute a license agreement for access to property between the City of Lowell and Arcadius US Incorporated relative to conducting a subsurface investigation, assessment, remediation, or removal activities that may be required for 30 Howe Street, Lowell, Massachusetts. Councilor Leahy?
Through you as a manager, is there any exposure for the city on this?
No, this is actually a good thing for the city because what the people were doing is they're now testing our soil to see if there was any contamination from theirs. And if we don't allow them to do it now, we can't complain about it in the future. So this is a good thing. If there is something there, then we'll be able to take care of it through these people.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Did you have something to, did you want to?
In case, I was just here in case someone had a question.
Okay. Discussion? Move to approve. Councilor Mercia?
Just so the gentleman didn't come down here for nothing, what is this about a little bit? Give us a little explanation.
I represent the owner of the adjacent property at 24 House Street.
Sorry, sir, could you just give us your name?
Oh, I'm sorry, Richard Kowalski with Arcadis.
Okay.
We completed a investigation on that property and found it was impacted by arsenic from historic use as a tannery back at the turn of the century. And we need to continue the delineation under the Massachusetts contingency plan in order to address the situation and eventually close it out.
Well, thank you very much.
Further discussion? Move to approve by Councilor Belanger, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. Discussion? Roll call.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Martin.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, motion carries. Next item, moving on to the next section of the agenda, we have orders from the city manager. We have an order of taking and acceptance of relocated Edward Street and sidewalk in front of 1765 Middle Street. Motion to refer to a public hearing on November 18th, 2014 at 7 p.m. by Councilor Leahy, seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, motion carries. There'll be a public hearing on November 18th.
Mr. Mayor, if I could,
I'm sorry, Councilor Milonazo?
it's probably obvious, but can you tell us the difference between item 6.1, which was the vote authorizing the city manager to accept the deed to the relocated Edward Street and the sidewalk in front, and now this vote that we're sending to a public hearing?
Mr. Manager?
Does that ask Mr. Slagle from Developmental Services to explain that to you?
Thank you.
Yes, Councilor, it's just a two-part process. The former street was not located in the location where the current street will be. They realigned the street in order to build the Walgreens. The realigned street is now on their property. So before we actually accept the road, we actually have to own it. So they're giving, the first vote was for us to accept the deed to it. Now that we actually own it, we can the council can go through the process of doing a formal acceptance, which is a separate process under state law.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Moving on to the next item, Section 8, we have reports, subcommittee report. Councilor Leahy,
Yes.
subcommittee report.
Thank you. Neighborhood Subcommittee met tonight at 5 o'clock. Myself, Councilor Mercier, Councilor Samaras, also present, Eric Slagle, Director of Development Services, City Manager, Assistant City Manager Mike McGovern, Councilors Belanger, Milanazzo, Kennedy, Councilor Rourke, basically everybody was here. Councilor Martin came in towards the end, but everybody was here for the Lieutenant Barry Goldner, Captain Kelly Richardson, and Deputy Superintendent Arthur Ryan. First part, there were 3 items on the agenda. We got to 2 of them. First part was discussion about the report we got tonight from the Development Services about problem properties that have been closed down the last 6 months. We had a good discussion with the police department and Director Eric Slagle about how closely the 2 departments are working to shut down these problem properties when they become a nuisance and a problem to the city, to the neighborhood. We're right on them, and we're directing our efforts to, if need be, close down these properties to get rid of the element, therefore hopefully reduce crime in the city. We had a great discussion. There were a lot of neighborhood leaders here. A few people from the public came up and we spoke on this. We had a good discussion on this. Second item on the agenda that we got to was discussion of public safety in the neighborhoods. And again, with the help of the police department and input from the neighborhood group leaders, the neighborhood folks that came down, most of the discussion focused on some of the happenings over in Centerville. Seems to be a hot spot. We've had a few break-ins over there. We heard some very, I guess, harsh criticism of how we handled a couple of the break-ins from the police department, but it's constructive criticism that we need to hear. We will do a better job. The message will go back to the police chief, and we promise that, we'll try to be a little bit more, we're going to do a better job with our customer service. Somebody has a break-in in their home, it's very traumatic to them. We have to remember that. We have to do all that we can, and we have to follow up on these situations. So it was a very good discussion with the neighborhood leaders, with the citizens, with a couple of people that personally were affected by this. So we talked for an hour and a half. We had a good discussion. We didn't get to the last part, which I wanted to bring up and talk about trying to prepare a list of signage that needs to be replaced throughout the city and the neighborhoods, street signs, stop signs, any type of signs that we have up that are faded. Maybe we don't need them anymore. Some of these go slow children signs, whatever it may be. So on the last part, I suppose we could just, that motion has gone to the manager's office for a report. So I thank everybody for coming down tonight to the meeting, and it concluded at 6:30. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Leahy. Further discussion, Councilor Samaras, and then
Thank you, Mayor Elliott. Councilor Leahy gave a good report. I think what's important to note that, yes, the neighborhood groups came down and they were, I think they were pleased that, of the responses made by Mr. Slagle and Deputy Ryan. One of the concerns, as Councilor Leahy talked about, was that they felt not only the response time sometimes in the break-ins, but what happened when a break-in occurred, what type of follow-up. And I want to commend Deputy Ryan for talking about some of the processes that they've been thinking about and their concerns that they have to ensure that if a break-in occurs or some problem happens in the neighborhood, that not only will the police respond, but it will be how they respond, that they will take the information down and make sure that the people whose home was broken into or problem that they had receive the proper and timely information. I think that was their concern, but I think as many of the people left, they showed their pleasure of being able to come down and speak on the issues, to be heard, and to hear something that's taking place by the administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Council Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was a very good meeting. It was a productive meeting. I would, though, like to request that the administration get back to this council about the follow-up that Captain Kelly Richardson is now doing on that case in Centerville, because some of the comments and the chairman, Council Leahy, I guess characterized it as harsh criticism. It was pretty outrageous what I heard this evening about the way this homeowner felt that she was treated by one particular detective. So I would hope that this council would get a report back from the superintendent, Deputy Superintendent Ryan, to just talk about exactly the status of, number one, the status of that case, and number two, if what we heard tonight didn't, I believe it happened, I don't think she'd make it up, but is this the norm that goes on with this particular detective? I certainly hope it's not, because I have a lot of respect for the Lowell Police Department, and I think that we really do need answers on this particular issue that happened and we heard about this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Milonazo. Further, Council Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to reiterate Council Milonazo's comments that, yes, that was Mrs. Janice Molesky, who is one of the organizers for the Lowell Folk Festival. Jimmy, I can trust anything you could take to the bank, what comes out of her is gospel, quite frankly. And it was disturbing. It seems like there's a pattern in that neighborhood, and with all this data that we're supposed to have, all this data analysts that we see and we hear about, seems to be getting us nowhere. There seems to be 3 or 4 break-ins within a 7 or 10 day period. No one relays to the neighborhood. They don't know nothing. It's just frustrating. It seems like all this money and time, and we're not getting our money's worth, really. Okay, what's good is having all this data. Are they doing reports every 30 days? I don't know. I've been in neighborhood group meetings. I see all the stat sheets. They're very informative. But do we need to do them once a week? I don't know. But it seems like we got state-of-the-art everything, but we're getting no results, and it's frustrating. So I look forward to this report. If this woman was mistreated, which if it comes out of her mouth, I tend to believe it was. I'm sorry. So I'd like to know what happened here and why residents, if we see a pattern where break-ins are rampant, why aren't we notifying neighbors? Okay? Tell them you need to keep watch. Okay? So it's a little frustrating. I think we're all frustrated here what's going on in this city, and I do look forward to this response and to see how we can further help this cause. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council Milonazo. Council Mercier, excuse me.
Thank you. In response, in regard to the comments there, we do have a reverse 911. Couldn't we utilize it when there's a number of breaks in a particular neighborhood to alert, do a reverse 911 in that particular street, so we could say there have been, this is just a notice to tell you that there have been breaks in the neighborhood. Please keep an eye out for your neighbors. That would be a nice thing, I think.
Okay. Council Leahy.
Thank you. Just to follow up, I mean, I thought what Council Mercier said, I thought they were doing that, but we should find out to make sure that we're being consistent with that. Because I know, speaking with Captain Richardson, I see him out a lot at these neighborhood meetings, and I thought they were utilizing that, but let's make sure that we're consistent with that.
Well, evidently, they weren't using it at this street because the neighbor next door got robbed and nobody knew it.
Councilor Samaras?
Thank you. When I commented about the meeting, I mean, the meeting, there were problems, serious problems that were stated, but also it was interesting to listen to our police department and our code department talk about what is happening in a positive sense. But there were two distinct issues. One, when a policeman comes into a home that's been broken into, does he or she have the information as to what has happened in that neighborhood? That was a problem that the people felt was not, that they were coming in unaware of what's been going on themselves. So there's two issues. Councilor Mercier's the reverse 911. If there is a situation where there's a number of break-ins, we should make sure that that report is given out into that area so people become aware of what's going on. But I'd also ask the city manager to follow up with the chief in regard to what was asked, that when a policeman goes in to get a report on the break-in, that there's, in a sense, we talked about, and the police department talked about, that they've been considering having a checklist. So when an accident, when a break-in does occur, a report is made, but there's a follow-up report to the homeowner. That was their concern, that sometimes a report was made and they never saw or heard from anyone again. It's very important if we want to allay the fears of people that there is a follow-up. So I just ask that the city manager follow up with the chief on that motion, on that issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion on this item? Councilor Rourke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a notification for the council, there'll be a public safety subcommittee meeting on November 18th at 5 p.m.
Okay, entertain a motion to accept the report from the subcommittee as a report of progress and place on file by Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Belanger. All those in favor signify by saying aye. In the opposed, that motion carries, and we have the Public Safety Subcommittee meeting scheduled. Further reports on the subcommittee? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, that is petitions. There are claims. There are 3 claims for property damage. Entertain a motion to refer to the Law Department for report and recommendation by Councilor Mercier, seconded by Councilor Milonazo. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. In the opposed, motion carries. We have another petition from National Grid. It's a request for an underground electric conduit at the corner of Rogers Street and Research Drive. Entertain a motion to refer this to a public hearing on November 18th at 2014 at 7 p.m. by Councilor Rourke, seconded by Councilor Samaras. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, that motion carries. There is another petition from Comcast Southern New England. It's a request for an underground conduit and vault, location at Church, Green, and George Street. Entertain a motion to refer this to a public hearing as well on November 18th by Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Belanger. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries as well. Moving on to the next item, section of the agenda, we're under council motions. We have a Councilor Mercier, your motion is to be withdrawn, correct?
Yeah, withdrawn, thank
Okay,
you.
so motion 10.1, that motion is withdrawn. We already took Councilor Mercier's second motion out of order. We'll move on to 10.3, Councilor Milonazo's motion. That is to request the city manager meet with the police superintendent to discuss the number of police calls to group homes regarding curfew violations. Seconded by Councilor Rourke. Councilor Milonazo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I received a number of calls from residents of both the Highlands and Belvedere concerned about the number of police calls going to group homes, really scattered throughout the city. It's my understanding that those group homes that serviced young adults, if you will, 13 to 15, they have a 20-minute curfew. If they're due in by 8 o'clock, if they're not there by 8:30, the Lowell police get called. And then for those that are in the age bracket between 16 and 19, it's a 1-hour curfew. Again, if they're not back, the Lowell police get called. So the concerns that some of our constituents that were calling is that there are resources that are being taken away from protecting our neighborhoods and dealing with really contracted work. I think a lot of these group homes are run by or contracted privately, but with funds from the Commonwealth. that, should we be footing the bill to provide curfew violations issues on these group homes? So it's something that I would like the manager to meet with the superintendent of police on and really get a report back to us. I know that there's been a lot of problems with one particular home, I believe it's on Nesmith Street. And I think just all of the calls to that address alone really needs to be included in this report to find out, number one, who's funding that and who's managing it, because it's obviously a problem. So that's the essence of the motion, just to have you, Mr. Manager, meet with the chief and get back to this council with a report and, quite frankly, a recommendation. Should the state be reimbursing the Lowell Police Department or the city of Lowell for all of these calls to these various group homes? Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Council Rourke, then Council Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Definitely support this motion. It's necessary and very, very important at this time. What happens is with these, young teenagers or actually young men at certain ages, once they leave the home and don't come back, not only do the police have to show up, they also have to take that individual to a local hospital to make sure that no drugs were taken, no alcohol was taken. So that officer is now stuck on these individuals, for 6-8 hours, or however long it takes, at one of the local hospitals. So it's a drain on the police department. And Mr. Manager, any way you can go through the state to see, who licenses these people, how many violations are done, just to kind of get a hold of what goes on at these places.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just that residence on Nesmith Street, we've had 235 calls to it. I talked this past week with Erin Devaney, who is the commissioner of DCF, and we're setting up an appointment to meet with them next week to go over that issue at that and any other issues of group homes in the city. So it's in process right now.
Thank you, Council Belanger.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm certainly in support of this motion. I think it's an outstanding motion, one that's long overdue and one that's getting more and more of a problem every day. Mr. Manager, thank you for reiterating that problem teenage group home we have on Nesmith in East Merrimack Street. 235, that's one a day, basically, using our resources, taking cruises out of the neighborhoods, going to this property pretty much every day. A waste of resources, to say the least. And as we all know, if my colleagues did, I know I did, last Monday received emails from residents on Court Street regarding an Oxford house, which is adult sober houses, so to speak, that the residents were really up in arms about. I ended up calling the woman, and I met her there last Monday night. And here's what we got. And what a nice neighborhood, I might add. What a nicely maintained neighborhood. Everybody looks out for each other. There was about 15 or 20 of them waiting for me when I got out of the car, including children. Here's just a few things. So now that Lowell, we host these sober homes and these group homes, and we have about 20 approximately citywide, by the way, just to inform my colleagues and everybody at home that, and a smaller percentage are from Lowell. Here's just name a few. Children exposed to men intoxicated or on high substance abuse passing our children as they stumble on the street. Finding empty nips, beer cans, used condoms in front of our front doors. Multiple speeding going up and down the street, and it's a dead-end street. Late night noise disturbances and death threats requiring police intervention. Foul language, prostitution, children witnessing women being beaten. This is what we get for hosting group homes. Now, they're not all problematic such as this, but too many are, okay, quite frankly. I understand we're a city and we have to have group homes. We have people in need of services, but it seems like we're servicing the region. We're getting everybody else's problems. We have become a dumping ground for people, and I'm sorry. I'll probably have an editorial comment about me on Sunday, but I'm sorry. I work for the residents of Lowell and the taxpayers of Lowell. And these things, in some cases, negatively affect our neighborhoods. And something's got to be done about it. They're using our police resources. Some of them don't pay taxes, and here's what we end up with. Take a look on an average on the Lowell Sun, the arrest log. You'll see far too often, no known address, 205 Middlesex Street. A lot of the addresses are our group homes. So it's not fair. I realize we need to help people, we need services, but it's not fair that this is on the taxpayers of Lowell, this is on our police resources, and it seems to be getting worse. And our neighborhoods suffer as a result. So I look forward to this report, and I will have a future conversation with the solicitor to see what just our rights are with these things. How is the state able to come in and drop off? We don't know if they're felons, if they're sex offenders. We don't know who they are. How can they just come and drop them? Where are our rights in this case? That's what I'd like to know. How can we not, these teenagers be dropped off by DCF, these adults be dropped off by the state, coming from prisons, coming from other group homes, and we know nothing about it? So this is a problem that needs to be looked at. These things need to be controlled and not so much of a drain. I understand we need to have them, but they shouldn't be the drain on the taxpayer as they are as it states today. So I look forward to this motion response by Councilman Lonazzo, and we need to probe into this further, in my opinion. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion, Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. Pursuant to Councilman Milanazzo's motion, maybe one of the suggestions that you could make would be that rather than to have a police officer escort the violator to the hospital for a test, if staff from the program had to do it and then just sent a report to the police station, that would free up a lot of police time. But I also suspect that the number of violations would drop dramatically if they were paying for their staff to go up to the hospital. And that, I don't know if we can do that. I don't know what the state law says on that or the regulations, but it seems to me that that would be a way to just shift the burden back onto the group homes rather than on the police department.
Thank you, Councilor Kennedy. Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next motion of the evening by Councilor Belanger, request city manager have West 6th Street Firehouse inspected for possible roof repair. Second by Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Belanger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've received several emails about over the months, and it has apparently has not been corrected, but it's going to be. Mr. Snow, through the manager, Mr. Ralph Snow, the commissioner, emailed me on Friday and let me know that the RFP process is going to end, I believe, today. They will in turn hire a contract that should be corrected in the near week, so which is good news before the winter. So I think we'll be fine. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council. Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next motion of the evening is by Councilor Kennedy. Request school committee and school department consider developing a curriculum at Lowell High School that focuses on science, technology, engineering, and math STEM program. Second by Councilor Leahy. Councilor Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I filed this motion after speaking with several young families that are just starting out, and they told me that when they look to purchase a home, one of the things that they look for is a STEM curriculum, partly because that's where they anticipate the jobs will be for their children, and so that ends up being an important thing. Since that time, I've had an opportunity to speak to the headmaster at Lowell High School and with a couple of members of the school committee about the idea of doing this, and I think that STEM is something that the University of Lowell focuses on, that Middlesex Community College focuses on, and that the school department has started to focus on at the elementary school level. But I think that it's important that we have it at the high school level. And I think that some people will say, well, Lowell High School has something else like a hybrid called Pathways. But Pathways isn't the same as STEM. Maybe it's just a branding thing, but it isn't the same. And what's also come to light for me is that the U.S. News and World Report, which, as we all know, ranks colleges and universities every year throughout the country, also ranks STEM high schools. And there are several STEM high schools that are ranked in the top 100, several Massachusetts high schools that are ranked in the top 100. And it would be good for, if Lowell High were able to qualify for that ranking. I think that anything that we can do to improve or to make more desirable Lowell High School to parents who are making decisions on where they send their kids to high school is a good thing. And I think that something like this can only have a positive impact on residential property values in the city. And so the motion just asks that the matter be referred to the school committee and to the school department for their consideration. So I guess if the motion passes here tonight, then that motion would go by way of communication to the next school committee meeting, and then I think it would be up to you, Mr. Mayor, to carry the ball from there. But in my conversations with the members, with some of the members of the school committee, they indicated to me that there is a subcommittee for curriculum, and so maybe that's a place where we could look at it. I just don't, I think that this is not something that we should wait on, and I think that in many ways what goes on inside of the building is more important than the outside of the building. And so if we can have a curriculum like this that is strong and is recognized nationally or by, then I think that maybe trumps having a new school building in many ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Kennedy. For the discussion on the motion. I think this makes a lot of sense, Councilor. This year, the school committee just adopted a STEM program in the elementary or middle school, if you will. Just started up at the Rogers School. It is sort of a branding thing, and it's happening across the country. So I think it makes an awful lot of sense to introduce this to the committee, and we'll have a discussion in the subcommittee and certainly get a report back to you on this city council. Councilor Lee?
Thank you. When you hand deliver this to the school committee and it gets set up for a curriculum subcommittee meeting, could you just keep us in the loop, and some of us may want to attend, so thank you.
Okay, I will bring this to the next school committee meeting, which is not tomorrow, but the following Wednesday, and I'm sure it'll be referred out, and we'll send you an email when the meeting is. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. In the opposed, that motion carries. Next motion of the evening by Councilor Rourke. Request city manager move forward in submitting a grant application for the Bloomberg Philanthropies Public Art Challenge. Seconded by Councilor Samaras. Councilor Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As it reads, the purpose of this motion is to form a committee to represent Lowell in the Bloomberg Public Art Challenge. I know, Mr. Mayor, you have news on that in a minute. What it is it's basically a challenge for urban cities with over 3,000 residents to qualify for up to $2 million over 2 years. And also, Mr. Manager, if a link to that website can be placed on the city's website, I think that would be good and informative. On just a basic level, this is a contest that, we want to win. It's kind of like a go big type of, challenge. And, Lowell has a growing artist community, but Lowell is also deep in its history and with its public art. Our artists have both figuratively and literally brightened our downtown and our neighborhoods, and we basically need more of them. So anything that helps incorporate the artist community into Lowell, I think, is a good idea. Another reason to participate, which I like, is that it'll bring the city together. It's a lot of partnerships going on. The administration, businesses, hopefully the universities and the schools could all be part of a community partnership, and also for Lowell pride. And finally, I'd like to mention the potential economic development and the impact that could come along with a victory or even a determined effort for this challenge. The idea of murals, stone sculptures, hanging out throughout the city hopefully would increase pedestrian foot traffic and also business potential in Lowell. So, win or lose, public art is both part of our history and it's part of our future, and hopefully we embrace that, and it's something that I think Lowell as a city has a good chance of qualifying for and of winning. So hopefully this is something we can get started on quickly, and best of luck. Thank you.
Excuse me, hold on, Mr. Manager. We have someone registered to speak, Mr. Clerk.
Barbara Gagel.
I'm Barbara
Thank you
Gagel.
for patiently waiting all evening.
Yes, I know. I was ready to join the marathon, actually. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councilors and manager, and Mr. O'Rourke. Thank you very much, Mr. Rourke. I'm very interested in the Bloomberg Philanthropies grant, and a few weeks ago, I happened to see it on Facebook, and I started writing about it with my thoughts, and I got very excited. I am an artist downtown, and my studio is across from the Brush. I've been very involved with the arts community for some time. I thought of kinetic sculptures with wind and light in the canals. I thought of light shows on the water using all our natural resources. Along the Riverwalk would have sculptures, probably huge interactive textile hangings. People would be involved with it. Stories and poems and bricks. International Dance Day and Merrimack Street. Three-dimensional models made from children's ideas for robots. Healing art that would be hanging in the new health center. So my mind was churning with all of the creative explosion. And I also remembered the energy and excitement in Lowell several years ago when we had the good fortune to have the revolving museum and Jerry Beck. And there was so much excitement in the street. People would be coming from all the communities surrounding. They would bring their families. And they would be, the children would be playing in handmade, marvelous sculptures, creating games. We are a city rich in cultural backgrounds, and our distinct neighborhoods are bubbling over with ethnic and Lowell pride. Our history and cobblestone streets are the backdrop for rich new ideas. We have visual artists here in Lowell. We have writers, we have poets, we have musicians who make this city our home now and have just moved here. They want to have a voice in this development. We want to be a part of this vision. The Bloomberg Philanthropies state they want to support temporary public art projects. I think that needs to be defined, that engage with community, enhance creativity, enrich the vibrancy of the city. The art projects should demonstrate, as they say, close collaboration between artists, art organizations, and the city government. 3 cities will receive, as I have understood it, $1 million over 2 years. When I heard that there was going to be a meeting tonight and this would be addressed, I wanted to come here, and I had some questions. I wanted to know who would be writing the proposal for the grant, and I wanted to know what was being proposed. Here are some other questions. What is the vision? As the Bloomberg Philanthropies grant states, citizens to experience familiar places in exciting new ways. Who will create the vision? Who will be writing the grant? Are we following the guidelines? Are we within the guidelines for submitting in time? Because we have stiff competition across the country. There's no reason why we can't do it. The grant also does not fund 100% of the costs. Where will the money come from? This has to be dealt with. Are we funding for an archival video, which I think is extremely important, also brings in people to the community, visitors from across the nation. And Caroline Gallagher, who is a video artist, she wanted to be here tonight to represent that portion. She is a Lowell professional video artist, and she should also have access to the possibility of that grant. Is the board willing to develop, coordinate, communicate, and fund an amazing treasure of creative people who will make Lowell exciting and livable? And I will just state that when I was reading online, an artist in New York by the name of Ann Hamilton, who was involved with New York's Streetscape, which was extremely successful, said this program will forge new connections between artists and their cities and create new audiences for the art of our time and place. The submission began October 13th of this month. December 15th is the deadline. And the selection of the finalists for the full proposal will be February of 2015. So those are my questions, and I hope we can get some answers tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and we have some answers for you tonight. Mr. Manager, you want to go first?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I communicated with Paul Marion from UMass Lowell today, and he indicated that he would like to take a very active role in this initiative for the public arts work here. I also know, Mr. Mayor, did you want to address, I know your office is involved in this also, did you?
When we see money, I actually got my office got a letter back in October, October 20th. So immediately what I did is I scanned it and I sent it right off to our Cultural Office Affair Director, Susan Halter. She has come up with some great ideas that she is going to formalize, including, she had 3 options. We could create a whole day of temporary art for the Winterfest and apply for that. We have at least one group that had a proposal for that. Last year, we couldn't afford. Secondly, we could issue and send out a general call to our list to see if anyone has anything in the pipeline, which may be an option. We could also cover the cultural district with temporary murals printed on scrims, submitted by local artists, whether photographs or paintings, bring together the advisory board from the Canalway and other offices to make some selections. So she is well underway to coming up with some ideas. We would love to have her reach out to you and anyone else that may have an interest in some ideas for submitting application. But as soon as I did get this, I sent it off to our Cultural Office Affairs Director to make sure that we were not going to miss out on an opportunity, knowing the deadline was the 15th.
So I would assume that if people are interested in giving information, hearing what's going on in the beginning of creating this format, I could find out when there's going to be a meeting?
Susan Halter, we will get your information. I will forward it to her, and I am sure, and the city manager, she would be more than happy and welcome to solicit some ideas.
I know Susan. I'll give her a call.
Great.
Thank you.
Further discussion on Council Milonazo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank the Speaker and Councilor Rourke and you, Mr. Mayor, for referring this off to, first of all, bring the motion forward and for referring it to Susan Halter. As Chairman of the Arts and Cultural Subcommittee, I look forward at some point, again, I don't want to bog down the process, but I look forward at some point to weighing in on what we do come the end of the year to get the application submitted, but we probably will call a cultural subcommittee in order to look at what's being proposed.
So perhaps, when there is a meeting, and I think Susan was suggesting that they get the advisory board involved, they come up with some options and recommendations, we bring it in and refer it to that subcommittee. I think that'll make some sense.
Thank you.
Okay. Knowing that there is some time element to it, Susan's very eager to work on this, and she has initiated the process already, so. Okay. Further discussion on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Motion to adjourn by Councilor.
Your Honor.
Councilor Leahy.
Sorry. Can I just wanted to mention one thing about the Halloween stroll this weekend. Do I need to make a motion to?
Motion to suspend the rules. I was, just so you know, we're planning on, I reached out to them today to bring them in next week for citation, but absolutely.
I just wanted to add that I thought it was a huge success, and I know that the police department had extra patrols, and there was probably stuff that the manager's office did, the Greater Lowell Chamber of Commerce, Lowell High School, but what a great afternoon. I was down there working. There were tons of people, all the businesses, very good thing for Lowell, and it was a huge success, and I just wanted to say thank you to everybody involved.
We reached out to the Kiwanis, and we're going to have them come in.
The manager ate a little too much candy, but other than that, it was good.
Mr. Manager, anything else you want to add to that? I know that you had sent a communication out to us on the success of the bash.
I was down there and
Halloween bash.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was down there and I never saw so many people in downtown Lowell in one afternoon, and the businesses were open. They They were giving out candy. They had costumes on. It was a spectacular day. I talked to a number of businesses that were having a banner day, and I even rooted on UMass Lowell hockey that night, and that was a great day altogether for the city of Lowell.
Thank you. That concludes the business before the council tonight. Entertain a motion to adjourn by Councilor Belanger, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, that motion carries. Meeting stands adjourned.